Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta. I'm a busy wife, mom of 3, and an NANP certified supplement professional, but that's not all. I'm also the founder of the multi-award-winning Accelerated Health Products, a brand offering innovative, natural, scalar-enhanced supplements to optimize your health. And this podcast is not just a source of information, it's a community. We're all here to learn and grow on our health journeys, regardless of where you are today. And this podcast is the springboard to learning, and the free group coaching on Telegram is where we continue learning together. You can ask your questions. I post tips and tools on a daily basis to deepen your health and keep you motivated to move forward. So here's what you can expect. New episodes every Monday and Wednesday with in-depth health discussions and expert guests, hot topic issues that are in the news every Friday to keep things interesting, and then of course followed with the free health group coaching. Have you thought about detoxing, but you're a little nervous about being hangry, about not eating real food, or having those detox flu symptoms? Well, I've created over 10 unique, easy detox cleanses. You're eating real food, and they help reset your body from just getting pooping, right? From the colon cleanse to the parasite cleanse to the candida cleanse to the liver flush cleanse, and then of course to the ultimate accelerated diet cleanse that gives your body a shift and literally you feel good day one. You can take the detox quiz on my website at SaraBantaHealth.com to find out which one's right for you. And maybe you're not ready for a detox, but you want to start with a few supplements, don't know which ones to start with. Complete my health goals form for your free supplement protocol on the website. I will personally put together a protocol just for you. And just by taking a few steps forward with your health, you will change your life forever. And I'm here to help you every step of the way. Well, you know, I talk about body, mind, and spirit. They're all connected, and I'm so excited to be able to tap in to that connection with Brad Yates. He is so well known. He has over 20 years of experience helping individuals break through personal blocks and achieve their full potential, specializing in emotional freedom techniques or EFT or tapping. Brad empowers people to release fears, anxieties, and resistance that often stand in the way of their successes and peace. Welcome, Brad. How are you today?
Thank you, Sarah. I'm doing great today. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. And my biggest question for you is, are you ever stressed? Or are you always as calm as you seem to be on your podcast? I mean, I literally just calm down listening to your voice, which is so soothing. But a little background of me is that, you know, I do supplements, I do the diet, I do the exercise, I try to do all the things. And I know there's so much more in there. There's so much more that is inhibiting my growth, even though I think I'm growing as fast as I can. There's, you know, these little things that are the self-limiting beliefs, even the physical ailments, you know, liver issues or brain fog or, you know, not being able to perform during a workout. I know that there's more to it than just taking the right supplements and eating the diet and getting the sleep. So I'm so excited selfishly to learn how to tap into that even more. So maybe before we start getting into the deets of everything, you can tell people how you came to find this as such a passion. And obviously you're excellent at doing it because you have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers.
Thank you. I'm very blessed to get to do what I do. Yes, and even though I have been doing this tapping work for over 20 years, I am still human. There are still things that affect me sometimes. And, you know, just as you were saying, even with all the things that you know and all the things that you do, we still find, oh, there's another level of getting better because there's nothing so good that it can't get better. So it's always going, yeah, my health is good, my emotional well-being, my physical well-being, and what else is possible? And, for me, the tapping is a great way of doing that. I had, I had been an actor and had traveled the world doing theater, went to Hollywood to be a movie star, as one does. And while I was there, I met a woman, fell in love, and got married. And when our first child was on the way, I thought, I might need a backup career. So I'd always been fascinated with the power of the mind, and I saw this ad for a hypnotherapy school, and I thought, wow, that'd be an interesting side career. Started doing that, and started building a small practice. And when our second child was on the way, I realized that as much as I loved acting, this was my calling, doing personal development work. So switched to doing this full time, and at that same, just shortly after that, was introduced to EFT. And so at the end of my hypnotherapy sessions, I started, you know, trying a little bit of tapping with my clients, and then little by little, it became my main modality. And and then YouTube came along, and I thought, hey, wouldn't it be great if people could start their day with a little tapping? I'll call it Tap of the Morning. And that was all I intended to do, was that one video. And then I had another idea, and yeah, now there's what, 1,500 videos.
Right. You're not gonna get sick of listening to Brad, and you never have to listen to something over and over again
Yeah.
because there's plenty there to listen to. It's, I just maybe 6 months ago started acupuncture, and I know the power of Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. They've been around long, long before Western
Thousands of years.
medicine, thousands
Yeah.
of years, and it's still around, which means that it works. And you're dealing with acupuncture points. So, as you're talking and explaining what the basic principles of EFT is, can you kind of compare it to just pure acupuncture and how it's a little more than that or different than that or and complementary?
Yeah. And so you said, with acupuncture, for thousands of years in Chinese medicine, they have said there's a flow of energy through the body along these pathways that are called meridians. And when this energy is flowing naturally, we experience our natural state of health and well being, physically and emotionally. And when this energy gets disrupted in some way, then we experience discomfort, dis-ease, physically and emotionally. So in traditional Chinese medicine, the doctor would stick needles in these key points, what we know as acupuncture, and there's acupressure. And what we're doing is a form of acupressure. We're stimulating these same points with our fingertips. So we're tapping on these points instead of sticking needles in them to clear out those disruptions and get back to that balanced state of flow. Now, we have a growing body of scientific evidence showing that tapping downregulates stress. So the acupuncture model is the basis for how tapping was discovered when a psychotherapist named Roger Callahan was working with a woman with a water phobia. And he'd been studying acupressure at the time, and said, well, let's see if we can do something about the physical symptom. When you have this fear of water, what do you feel? She says, well, I got a knot in my stomach. And he said, oh, okay, well, the meridian, the end point for the stomach meridian is right here under the eye. Let's just tap here for a moment, see if we can do something about a knot in the stomach. Not only did her stomach feel better, her water phobia disappeared. She ran to the swimming pool, splashed water in her face, and said, I feel fine. Now, it generally doesn't happen that instantaneously, but it does sometimes, where by just tapping on a point or two, we get such a shift in our energy. And so there are a number of ideas about how exactly the mechanics are working such that we feel this relief when we are tapping on these points. We're stimulating these areas of our body, and that acupuncture's been around for thousands of years, but we have modern technology that can show that these are areas of lower electrical resistance, and tapping on these points sends a calming signal to the brain. And so it's using the same process. It's just a lot of people don't like needles, so it's a more comfortable way of doing it. It's much easier to do it on yourself. You know, when you're in a situation where you're stressed out, like you're in traffic and somebody has cut you off, you know, you don't go, oh, where are my needles? Let me just
Right.
start sticking. So it's a very simple way of calming down that stress response, and how it can be so helpful in so many different areas of our lives, including our physical discomfort, is that most, if not all, of the things that bother us, both physically and emotionally, are either caused by or worsened by stress.
Yeah.
So having a simple technique for calming down stress allows us to alleviate emotional discomfort, physical discomfort. And we can also use that in terms of making our lives better. So it's not just about, okay, well, I have things that are bothering me, so let me get rid of this. But looking at, okay, how do I want to make things better? If I want to have better relationships in my life, if I want to have greater career success, greater financial abundance, the extent to which we're not experiencing what we say we want tends to be the extent to which we're resisting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I may be resisting better health emotionally. I may be resisting better financial success. And so I have some stress that comes up when I try to make changes. And by having a technique that can calm down that stress, it's like, oh, you know what? It would be okay for things to be better.
Right.
When you talk about all the different ways that, okay, my health can be better and I'm doing these different things, why might I resist it being better? What part of me says, well, yes, Sarah, you could be in better physical shape, but then there'd be other expectations and people would think you should do this and they'd expect more of you. So whatever it might be, or, you know, my friends are already jealous for how successful I am or how healthy I am. If I have even more success and even more health, you know, what are the negative consequences of things getting better and better? And we're not consciously thinking of that all the time, sometimes, but unconsciously, we're thinking about that stuff all the time, and we're making choices. We're blocking things being better in different ways. And the tapping helps us calm down the stress to say, it's okay if things get better. And I'm
Yeah.
allowing things to get better, and that benefits others.
I heard you say a while back that if you think that you don't have a limiting belief, say it's for financial gain, then why are you not on your way, or why are you not there yet? Right? Well, and that really hit home with me, because it's like, okay, I must have a limited belief inside me somewhere subconsciously that's holding me back, and to really get in tune with that and then work through it. The other point I wanted to just emphasize, acupuncture is great. It's expensive. You've got to be at a location. You're not doing it to yourself. You can't do it in your car when you're having an anxiety attack. You know, all of these things. And then the last thing is, stress makes us resistant of change. It makes us hold on to what we know, even if it's the hell we know,
Yeah.
versus, right? So
The devil you know. Yeah.
just by lowering that and switching into the parasympathetic mode, you're opening the door for change. And that just is basic understanding. So that makes total sense of how it works. Now, let's dive into the science behind it, how it affects the nervous system. And you touched on this a bit, and the energy meridians. And just like acupuncture, they put the needles in those spots to increase the chi, the flow, the energy throughout the body, to lower stress. And then also how just maybe the placebo effect could also be a little bit a part of it, or maybe not. Maybe it's just the science behind the ancient Chinese wisdom.
Yeah. Well, so, you know, you might have someone like Dr. Deepak Chopra who will say it's all consciousness, which means that everything we do is all placebo.
Right.
You know, no matter the supplements, the surgery, whatever, it's you could ultimately say it's all placebo, because whatever our consciousness allows to work or our consciousness stops from working, you know, because we can have the best supplements. but not everyone is going to have the same result in the same time frame.
Mm-mm.
So it's just cause and effect, and there's nothing that we have involved in that. So we can resist that. And like you said earlier about the limiting beliefs, because I'll work with people who say they want to have more money. And I'll say, well, look at where the resistance might be. I have no resistance. I absolutely want to make more money. Okay, so if I looked at your spending habits, well, no. And I'm looking at how you're making business choices. Okay, so maybe I don't make all the best business choices. Could be resistance. Just saying. And it's not that we're bad or stupid, but we have old programming about why we
Yes.
couldn't or shouldn't be healthier or happier or wealthier or whatever it might be. And when we come up against those areas of, I shouldn't be any more of this, there's like an electric fence. We have that comfort zone inside there. And we feel stress when we get to that edge. And so we just want to calm down that stress. As I was saying earlier, as far as the mechanics, there are a number of theories in terms of, is the tapping, it's this piezoelectric phenomenon where it sends this electrical signal to the amygdala, telling it to calm down. You mentioned parasympathetic. So the sympathetic nervous system is when the amygdala in our brain perceives a threat and says, all right, everybody on deck, and we go into fight or flight. Sometimes it's really obvious, like when we're having a panic attack, and sometimes it's very subtle. We just find ourselves just making a different choice. If when you're saying, I want to be healthier, and you find yourself eating a whole box of cookies, that's because you may not be doing it in a very calm way, but there's some level of fight or flight going on such that your party is saying, I'm not safe, I'm not feeling good, I need to take care of myself. And I'm doing it so in a very illogical way, but I'm trying to take care of myself. And then when we get the all clear, that's when we have the parasympathetic nervous system saying, all right, everything's okay. And so that's the tapping is expediting the parasympathetic nervous system. And that we're looking at how it interacts with the vagus nerve and the polyvagal system. And so what we do know is that we have all kinds of different tests. We've done cortisol studies. So cortisol is one of the stress hormones that when we go into fight or flight. And in double-blind studies, the groups that do the tapping, their cortisol levels drop. Sometimes as much as, I think, one was up to 43%, which is a staggering amount. The first study that was done on cortisol with stress, the lab technicians, when they first ran it, there was an average of 24% decrease in cortisol levels. The lab technicians said, that's not possible. These people tapping on their faces did that. So they threw out the results, recalibrated the machines, and ran it again. Oh no, it actually did. The
Well,
groups,
and
yeah.
who doesn't need that today? I mean, our children in general, what an amazing gift you could give your child to teach them how to tap and self soothe, right? I was just talking to a friend of mine with 3 grown children in their 20s. All of them have anxiety, and they're on social media, right? So get
We're
off
all
the.
walking around with a stress-inducing device that is constantly saying, "How you feeling? Did you hear
Right.
about this? Here's something to be upset about."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty. If you're tapping on yourself, you can't hold a cell phone at the same time. So it's a win-win. But our children are so stressed. Their hormones are out of whack. That makes things worse. But that anxiety is at an all-time high. And same for us. I mean, yes, the world's crazy. Yes, it's chaotic. Yes, we've got family issues and parent issues and spousal issues and children issues and financial issues. But I believe that our perceived stress is higher than ever. Our nervous systems don't know how to get into that parasympathetic mode. They're just constantly in fight or flight. So you don't even know how stressed you are because you never get out of it. And then you're
Exactly.
not sleeping well, which is making things worse. And then you stick to the same routine because that's the safe spot. and you're afraid to get out of your box. And so this is why I'm so excited about this. And you better believe I will be sharing this with my own children, and obviously working on it for myself. But when I go to acupuncture, as an example, I'm forced to lay there and I can't be on my phone. I have to be still. So where does my mind go? I focus on where the needles are. I focus on what the job of the needles are doing. And so there's this mind-body connection and intention with the actual treatment, which only makes it that much more powerful. You know, you can sit there and shovel down some healthy food and not even recognize what you're eating, or you could throw a handful of supplements in your mouth and not even know what you're taking, and there's not that intention. So, can you talk about the importance of that connection as well? And I believe that's why it's so powerful, or that much more powerful.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm often asked when people watch my videos is, do I have to repeat what you're saying? Do I have to say it out loud? And I say, the process of tapping, even if we're doing it silently, even if our mind gets distracted, it's still going to be sending the common signals to our brain. It's still going to be lowering that stress. And as you said, we have what I call ambient stress. There's always some level of stress that we're not aware of, especially because we all have a cell phone that's constantly, even if we're not on it, there's a part of us that's aware of it and wondering, what new messages have I gotten? Who's liked my last thing? Who's disliked my last thing? And so there's this constant buzz that we didn't used to have, 30, 40 years ago, when we didn't have that. So there is a much higher level of stress that we're experiencing these days, and we just normalize it.
Yes.
We have cortisol pumping through our body, which, helpful when we're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, when that part of our brain developed, thousands of years ago. But we're feeling threatened at some level. We may be seeming like we're fine, and we're telling ourselves we're fine. That four-letter F word, fine. And when we're not even aware of these things going on in our body that are not helpful, as you said, it interrupts your sleep, which is so important. People who are, doom scrolling just before going to bed, and not even aware, it's like you're not helping. So, but we just normalize it. We just take it for granted. That's how it is. I need to know what's going on. I do it myself sometimes. I'll find myself, it's like, it's 9 o'clock at night. Why am I looking at my cell phone right now?
Yeah.
Because it's so habitual and it's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So we recognize that, but then we can at least say, okay, but I have a way at least of calming my system down and dealing with that threat and all these things that are going on inside my head and telling me why I should be stressed.
Yeah.
As the Stoics say, it's not what happens that causes the upset. It's your thoughts about that. So then you go, okay, what am I thinking that is causing me to be so stressed about this? Is this an actual threat to me at the moment? And can I allow myself to relax now? And it's not a matter of, I don't care about what's going on in the world. Oh, I'm just going to, there's people fighting in other parts of the world. I'm just going to feel okay, and it doesn't matter. It's not about that. But I cannot feel stressed enough to help anybody else.
Right.
I cannot feel bad enough. I cannot be sick enough to make anyone else healthier. I cannot be poor enough to make anyone else wealthier. But if I get down to that place and clear not just the levels of stress that I'm aware of, but those levels of stress that are affecting me and limiting me in so many ways, then I'm much more open to be able to share my gifts and talents with the world and look at where can I make a difference. And when you consider that everything is energy and we're all connected, just the fact that I'm calming my system down and I'm releasing stress from my body, I am releasing stress from the collective whole. It is a modest effect, but it is a measurable effect of making the world a better place.
Absolutely. And the world is not as big as you think it is. You have so much more power than you actually think you do. And I remember the moment when that actually was an aha moment for me. It was like in the beginning of my podcasting, like, oh my gosh, I just reached people outside of the United States. People from other countries are listening to me. I actually am voicing something that's helping people on the other side of the world. This is amazing. And I'm only one person, and the energy that you carry really affects the other people in your household, in the market. I mean, just for an example, I remember going to the market. If you're in a really bad mood, you say, well, gosh, everyone is so rude in the market. They don't look at you, and they don't smile at you. And then you go into the market a different day and you're in a good mood, you're smiling, and all these people are engaging with you. It's the same environment. You're just the change agent, right?
Yes. It's so funny you mentioned this, Sarah, because I was having a thought about a video just before we got on this about, the idea that the outside world is a reflection of what's going on inside. And it's just a mirror. And there's a part of us that just wants a world where there's no mirrors. I don't want to have it shown that I have a stain on my shirt. I don't want it to be shown that my hair is out of place, because that's what it is. We're seeing all this stuff, and it's just, this old expression: if you spot it, you got it. It's like, well, then I'd rather not spot it. I don't want to have any mirrors. But it's like, no. But when I can see that, and I can see, oh, now I can see that my hair's out of place. Now I can fix that, because I'd rather be more put together, and not just a superficial way of, oh, I want my hair to look perfect, but just that as a metaphor of what's going on inside of me that is not the most evolved version of me, that is not the most elevated, the most joyful.
Right.
I want to enjoy life as much as possible. I want to feel as much peace, as much joy, as much love as possible. And so when something in the outside world shows something else, it's like, where is that going on inside of me? And I don't know if you're familiar with Ho'oponopono, and it's that same idea of, it's this Hawaiian practice of taking responsibility for what shows up in the outside world. You go, what's going on inside of me such that this is showing up?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to clear what I can. And it's a win-win situation, because I feel a lot better and the world gets better. And it may not always be obvious. It's like, I don't expect to say, oh, well, there's this strife going on, in this other country, or in our country, or wherever it is. I'm just going to tap for a few moments. I'm going to turn on the news. Hey, folks, everything is better now. Everything has changed. And there's happiness in the streets. But but to some level, that is that. And also, there may be something that I can do, like you said, getting on your podcast and being able to share your useful information with people that otherwise wouldn't have. And it's like, now you've been able to expand your reach because you've gone past what had been a comfort zone before. And that's always, that's the whole point of the work that I do. It's like, because I know that people have gifts and talents. I don't know if you can see it. I have a picture of Michelangelo's David on the wall. I have Davids everywhere, because Michelangelo said, the statue is already there, perfect, inside the marble. And all I have to do is chip away what doesn't belong to reveal the masterpiece that's inside.
Yes.
And that's how I feel about people. Every person is a masterpiece that is a gift. I know, having seen the David a number of times, I'm going back in a few months to see him again, just how spectacular. And just that feeling, and wanting everybody to share their masterpiece with the world. So my job is just help people chip away what doesn't belong. And then that masterpiece is naturally revealed, and you naturally make the positive difference that only you can make.
Yes, I love that. I tell my children when they're going through something stressful or they have anxiety over it, I always say, I can't wait what God is going to do with this. What muscles in you it's going to strengthen. And another way of saying that is, what is it going to chip away at you to make you the perfect, amazing human being that you're supposed to be? We're just getting rid of the stuff that doesn't serve you anymore. And fear is praying for what you don't want to happen, right? Worry is praying for what you don't want to happen. So if we can get that worry, that anxiety, and that fear to clear away, and see a challenge as a positive, as an opportunity for change, right? Not as an opportunity to be another victim, because the victim mentality doesn't work in this world. And I tell my children all the time. I mean, there have been times where I've said, stop playing victim. What are you doing with that other person that is causing them to act that way towards you? Versus just blaming the other person for whatever they're doing. Take some ownership here, which is
It's
not
so
easy
funny you
to
say
do.
this, because I just did a guided imagery. I still do hypnosis in my sessions, and I was working with a client who was upset about how someone was behaving, and I said, imagine that this person they're an angel who has shown up and said, you're enjoying life, but not as much as you could because you still have some old stuff. So, hi, I'm going to help you reveal that stuff so that you can get rid of it and enjoy life even more.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get to that place of, looking at it's like, oh, this person who's showing up that's God, that I'm feeling upset. This is an opportunity. I thought I was enjoying life. I thought things were going okay. It's about to get a whole lot better. Just wait. I loved how you said that. I can't wait to see what's on the other side of that.
Exactly. And then that gives the person hope. It turns their anxiety into hope and maybe some anxiousness to get there in a positive way. So, Brad, most people have had some severe or even mild trauma, maybe from childhood, right? And they look to hypnosis, they look to strong drugs, medication, numbing themselves with alcohol or other things like that. But can tapping on its own break someone free of that emotional trauma?
Yeah, I don't want to make any extreme claims, but it does happen. And I mean, it's, well, just like with any kind of medication, it, it's not always going to do everything, but sometimes, it numbs us out. But this is a healthy way of addressing it. So, like I mentioned earlier about eating a box of cookies, and then we beat ourselves up for that, and we shame ourselves for whatever our drug of choice might be. We we use it, and then we shame ourselves. And I want to ask folks, be so compassionate with yourself, because self-sabotage is simply misguided self-love.
Hmm.
We're trying to take care of ourselves. As I'm reaching for, I say, I'm trying to lose weight, and I'm halfway through the box of cookies going, and then suddenly realize, what am I doing? And I might try to say, oh, I'm so stupid. It's like, no, there was a part of me that said, I am in so much pain right now. And I may not be consciously aware of it, but at some level, I'm in so much pain that I need to take care of myself. And I know I'm going to pay a price tomorrow. If for an alcoholic, it's like, I know that I might wake up, on a street tomorrow, not knowing where I am. But I need to risk that at the moment because I'm in so much pain. So having absolute compassion for yourself, and then recognize that it's because I'm experiencing this discomfort. And tapping is one of the simplest ways, certainly the simplest way that I know to actually address that where it is in the body. Because
Right.
there are all kinds of benefits to talk therapy, but it isn't just in our heads. We're feeling emotions in our bodies. If we're really angry about something going on, we're not in a totally relaxed position going, wow, I'm really pissed off right now. It's in the body. It's a visceral experience. So we want to take it to the body where it is while addressing whatever's going on. So it has that benefit of being able to address where it is. And sometimes it happens very quickly. So my first introduction to EFT at a day-long workshop with Gary Craig, the founder of the particular process EFT, he gave everyone a piece of chocolate and said, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much would you like this chocolate right now? And I was a bit of a chocoholic at the time, and I'm like, 8, 9. And he took us through a little bit of tapping on it. Even though I want this chocolate, it's going to taste so good. Yum, yum, yum. And after a few minutes of tapping, maybe a minute or two, he said, now, how much do you want the chocolate? And I'm like, wow, I don't want it at all. He said, take a bite of it. And I tried to take a little bite, and I could not eat it. It was disgusting. I didn't know it at the time, but I would not eat chocolate for 2 years after that. Now,
Mm.
don't anyone worry, I recovered. Um, But in that moment, I was able to go from what a desire to really want that chocolate, to where I could not eat it. It wasn't just, oh, I could abstain from that. It wasn't a willpower thing. It was no desire. And there have been times where I've chosen to go through a sugar fast. Sometimes I'll allow myself to indulge myself because I'm in pretty good health. But there are times where I go, you know what, I'm going to choose to take a break from this. And it could be, Easter, and there's chocolate all around. And I'm like, I have no interest. It's not a matter of I'm just willpower. I have the willpower to not have it. So we can do that when we recognize that these other substances, whatever these things are, it's an attempt to numb it. And there may be chemical factors, with certain drugs that do numb it, and sometimes just emotional. I get an emotional hit, which is a chemical thing. Emotions are chemicals in our body. So when I think about this, like chocolate, well, it reminds me of happy times. So I am emotionally calming myself down because I am creating the emotions, the drugs in my brain to calm down the distress.
Right.
And yes, tapping is a simple and healthier way in general to allow ourselves to have that calming process before we have to resort to something that's unhealthy.
Yeah. Well, we're watching you tap in certain places, and you keep going to the same places. Does it matter which points you're tapping? And why don't you take us through a sample?
Yeah, absolutely. So the original version of tapping was that Dr. Callahan had come up with, was he called it thought field therapy. And he came going from acupuncture, taking 8 major points, but he would identify what the issue was for the person, and then decide, well, it should be these 3 points in this sequence. So he had different algorithms for different emotions. And so a lot of time was spent trying to figure out which points should I tap in which sequence. One of his first students was Gary Craig, and Gary had his degree in engineering from Stanford. So he's thinking like an engineer, how do I simplify this? And he said, okay, it only takes a moment to tap through all of these points. So rather than spending time trying to figure out which point to tap in which sequence, let me just tap all the points in order and get the same benefit without having to figure that out. So I may be tapping a point that isn't necessary, but there's no harm in it. It's not
Right.
like the body's going to say, oh, you tapped the wrong point and now we're going to hold on to the distress.
Okay.
So that's why we tap these points in this order. However, there may be times where you only feel like tapping one point. And you may, there have been times where I'm tapping along and I'll go, I'm just going to hang out here right now. And it may be that, okay, this is the gallbladder meridian, and it's associated with anger. So maybe I'm just angry, and maybe I don't really feel angry, but I just feel I feel drawn to tapping this point. So I always say to folks, go with your gut experience. And if you only tap one point, that's fine. So it can be very beneficial to tap through all of the points, but we actually don't have, we do know from studies that tapping these particular meridian points is more effective than just tapping anywhere on the body. So they'll do studies with what are called sham points, with points that don't line up with the acupuncture system and the meridians as we know them. And we do not get the same effects. So it does make a difference that we're tapping on these particular points, but whether or not we tap on all of the points or what order we tap on them doesn't seem to have that same effect.
That is fantastic news, because for anyone out there that just wants to play around with this and try it out, you're not going to do anything hurtful.
You can't really get it wrong.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into one.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you the basic version of EFT, because the way I do it, it's an intuitive process, and I say a lot of things. And if that's the first introduction for folks, they say, wow, it's really complicated. You have to say all these things. I'm not going to do that because I don't know what to say. Don't worry about that. So the very basic version is we identify what's going on for us. So it may be, I feel really stressed right now. I'm really scared about some event that's coming up, or I'm really angry at Bob because Bob was such a jerk yesterday. So I identified the issue, and then I rated on a scale of 0 to 10. How upset am I? It's an 8. Bob was really a jerk. It really messed up my day. It's an 8. And it's even better if we can identify how we're experiencing that. So I know I'm upset. I know it's an 8. How do I know that? I feel this tightness in my chest, or I feel my shoulders are really tense, whatever it might be. So then I will take the fingertips of my index and middle finger and gently tap on the side of my opposite hand. And we do the setup statement where we say, even though I have this issue, I choose to love and accept myself. So I might say, even though I feel this stress, even though I'm angry at Bob, I choose to love and accept myself. And the reason we do this is because so often we're addicted to that 4-letter F word. I'm fine. And what we resist persists. So we're giving ourselves permission to acknowledge, you know what? I'm not entirely fine right now. So even though I'm not entirely fine, I choose to love and accept myself. And that creates an opening for us to an energetic opening to do this process. And then we'll go through these points. So right at the beginning of the eyebrow, and generally we tap a point between 5 and 10 times. It's not an exact science. It's not like if you tap too many times. So if you're saying a long phrase like, all this fear about the report that's due next week because I'm afraid my boss will yell at me if I get it wrong, I've just tapped more than 10 times. It's not like it's going to be wrong. So we repeat the phrase, this issue, this stress, this anger at Bob. This stress, right here at the corner of your eye socket.
Mm-hmm.
Right under the middle of your eye, this stress. Right under your nose, this stress. Right under your lower lip, this stress. Right here where your collarbones just about come together, there's a little bit of a U shape at the base of your throat. Mm-hmm. And the point is on either side, but you can also just make a fist and tap that whole area. And then you're covering both collarbone points. This stress. The next point is about 4 inches below your armpit. It's right about bra strap level, and I'm sure even the guys watching can figure out where that is. All this stress. And then finally the top of the head. So with all of your fingertips, just tapping around the crown of your head. This stress. Then you take a deep breath and check in again. And so whatever the issue is, the stress, the fear, the anger at Bob. And so if it's an 8 before, sometimes it'll go from an 8 to a 0 like that. Sometimes it'll just go from an 8 to a 7.75. And to my thinking, even if it's a little bit of relief, that's better than nothing. I'm a little bit more, because when we're stressed out, our prefrontal cortex shuts down to some extent. So the more stress we have, the less clearly we can think. The less stress we have, the more clearly we can think. So any improvement is great. Sometimes it might feel like, wow, it's actually an 8.5 now. Because I'm more, it's not that tapping has caused it more. It's just that now I'm more aware of what was going on in there. And it was probably already an 8.5 or more. I'm just more aware of it now, but now I'm able to do something about it.
Right.
And then we can think more clearly. We make better choices, which has much, all kinds of benefits for our lives.
So what I've noticed, and I wasn't even doing the full thing, is that I can still feel stimulation in those areas, and there's circulation, there's energy, there's movement. Can you tell us what each point, because you mentioned this is the gallbladder, right?
Yeah.
What is here? I think you mentioned that's the stomach. Am I challenging you here?
So see if I get this. Because I don't focus on this very often, so I sometimes forget. But so this is the bladder, which is related to sadness. Side of the eye is gallbladder, related to anger. Under the eye, stomach, related to fear. This is the governing vessel, which runs up and around the back, often related to embarrassment and humiliation. This is the central vessel, related to guilt and shame. The kidney point is related to fear as well. And then spleen, I believe. I believe the end of the arm is the spleen point, and often related to low self-esteem. And the
Mm-hmm.
top of the head is, I can't remember I always blank on the name. It means the meeting of 100 roads, and a lot of the meridians cross over there. So we're covering a lot of different meridians there.
Okay. So lastly, and where I can't believe we're out of time, when most of my listeners are trying to overcome some health issues, chronic diseases at an all-time high, let's say someone has low thyroid, which is rampant right now. Okay. Can you use tapping to help your body self-heal? Right? Outside of the supplements, outside of medication and sleep and diet, can tapping be part of the diet to help overcome a physical health predicament?
Yeah, and I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to make any medical claims. However, again, the idea, the extent to which we don't have what we say we want tends to be the extent to which we're resisting it. So we might look at why, if my body is not doing what it could do, how am I resisting that? Is there a part of me that wants to compromise my health because of secondary gain? And this is not about blaming anyone for the issue, but getting curious about, is there something going on there?
Yeah.
And I may not be doing all the things I can do to have a healthy system, including my diet and exercise, because there's some part of me that feels safer not being healthy.
Yes.
So looking at, where might there be some stress, some fear going on inside of my body that might be compromising my health in terms of how my body functions, or in terms of how I support my body with diet and exercise. And what can I do about that? So the tapping can help us clear that. And also, again, stress exacerbates physical symptoms. So much of the physical discomfort we feel, so much of the pain that we feel is not just physical, but is emotional.
Right.
So when I'm working with someone on a physical issue, say, look, I'm not going to make any claims about the tapping is going to heal that. But our bodies are remarkable machines at healing ourselves and taking care of ourselves. But if a lot of my energy is going to worrying about something that I can't do anything about, then that's being taken away from my ability to heal. You know, that it's like having a work crew. If you had a work crew of 100 people, and you want all as many of those people working on this particular issue, but if they're off, it's like, oh, we're going to go and work on something else over here that's not really important. Yeah, let's let that go. And so I can, in the tap in, I can give myself permission to say, I'm getting stressed out about something that I don't need to stress about.
Yeah.
And that's taken away from my ability to self-heal. And so now I'm calling those crew members back to the most important job.
I love it. Brad, I am going to be binge watching your YouTube, and I highly recommend everyone else. I want you all to go watch Brad and then come back and let us know what you've learned and any changes you've seen. Where can they find you, Brad?
Yeah, thank you. Easiest way is at tapwithbrad.com. And if you go there, there's a couple of 5-day free programs. One's called Success Beyond Belief, and one's called Tap Into Your Best Self. So that's 5 days with the workbook and videos to help you look at, why might I hold myself back from being my best self and living my best life, and clearing that stuff out.
I love it. I could talk to you forever. I'm going to do the ones on sleep, on healing my liver. There's so many. So thank you, Brad. And thank you everyone else for joining us today. Our discussion does not have to stop here. If you're feeling lost in the supplement world, to go along with the tapping that you're going to now incorporate, no worries. I'm here to help. I know it can confusing. You can get your free supplement protocol at SaraBantaHealth.com. Just fill out the form and I will personally put together a protocol for you. Follow me on social media at Accelerated Health Products and join the free group coaching on Telegram. There's no downside. You learn from each other. You've got a great community and I post things daily to keep you moving forward. You can find this podcast, Accelerated Health with Sara Banta, on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, E360, iHeartRadio, and over 100 different platforms. Share this podcast. It's free knowledge, you guys. Free knowledge to be able to take your health to another level. And so many people need this. You can use coupon podcast 10 to get 10% off your first order at the website. And remember, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So join me next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.